The heartbreaking and horrifying new evidence in a case we've been following for months. For the first time, we're hearing those interrogation tapes. 12-year-old girls calmly describing why they lured one of their best friends into the woods, stabbing her 19 times and leaving her to die. All of it, they say, for Slender Man. And David, you spent a lot of time with that little survivor.
We've been following this journey, as you know, Elizabeth, a brave journey, and no one could have imagined what we would hear in these interrogations revealed in court just this week. A country, a community now reliving the horror, stunned that those two girls could explain in such a matter-of-fact way why they did this.
Tonight, like much of this country, it is a snowy and frigid Friday night in one American town, Waukesha, Wisconsin, where this evening an entire community is stunned all over again after hearing this week for the first time from two girls their own voices about the night they allegedly lured their friend into the woods and repeatedly stabbed her, police say, leaving her to die.
She handed me the knife and told me to stab her.
2020 has been following the case every step of the way. It's a horror story that began more than 8 months ago. A mother and father, like so many parents across this country, sending their daughter on a sleepover. At the time, Payton Leutner was just 12, and her parents knew her friend well, Morgan Geyser and another 12-year-old, all of them celebrating Morgan's birthday. Why would this night be any different? But it was.
On Saturday, May 31st, 2014, a 12-year-old girl was stabbed.
Tonight, the explosive new interrogation tapes just released. As we take you back inside a case that horrified parents across this country.
Two 12-year-old girls charged with viciously attacking their friend.
They stabbed their friend 19 times.
Those girls, the suspects, in their own words, in the hours after they were taken into custody. It is the first time we hear from Morgan Geyser talking about her friend Payton, who they left in the woods.
He was my only friend for a long time because...
Why would you hurt your only friend?
It was necessary.
And for the first time, we also hear from Anissa Wire, too. Her face blurred, the judge releasing this footage with the requirement not to show their faces during the interrogations.
I said, I'm scared. I was told that if I didn't do something, my family would be in danger.
Her family in danger? Who and what were those girls so scared of? We explore that right here tonight. While parents everywhere might be saying, not my child, tonight, you're about to hear how all of this began as an ordinary slumber party. 3 girls and someone else. An unknown figure getting into that party too. A fictional character from the internet named Slender Man, who so many parents had never even heard of. We have spent months in that town and have documented one family's journey. 2 parents helping their daughter recover.
She was forced to go into the woods.
Into the woods.
From the hero who found her at the edge of the woods.
She was laying right here.
The doctors who saw how close to death she came.
The knife cut through the tissue.
And the school where Payton has now returned. One family's stunning journey about to play out tonight right before your eyes. And just this week, 2 parents who heard for the first time from the friends who police say attacked their daughter.
It was a Friday night, right?
It was a Friday night.
Their daughter Payton had been looking forward to it for weeks.
You remember how excited she was that Friday afternoon.
Oh my gosh, she was so excited.
And had she gone on sleepovers before?
Oh yeah. And this was just her best friend's birthday
It was just
party.
another Friday night.
So she was gonna go roller skating, have some pizza, and spend the night at her best friend's house.
Yeah, they were probably gonna watch movies.
And so you thought this
And
is
play American Girl. Payton brought her American Girl doll with her.
She brought her American Girl.
But Payton would not come home the next morning.
Do you think Payton had any idea?
No, she had absolutely no idea.
She was blindsided.
Her parents blindsided too. Friday night, they send their daughter off. Saturday morning, Mom is in the backyard.
Joe was at work. I heard the doorbell ring and the dog bark. And it was a Saturday morning at like 9:30, 9:45. And around the side of the house, up over the deck, came a uniformed officer. The first thing that goes through my mind is, so something has happened to somebody that I love, because that's the only reason a uniformed officer and a detective comes to your house on a Saturday morning.
She would slowly begin to piece together what had happened in the 16 hours since Payton had left for that sleepover. It is unthinkable. The first moment anyone would begin to learn of that horror was this call to 911.
911. I'm transferring over a caller on Big Bend.
After she crawled out of the woods. And just listen, at first, the operators cannot believe what they are hearing.
Came upon a 12-year-old female. She appears to be stabbed.
She appears to be what?
Stabbed.
Stabbed?
Correct.
Greg Steinberg was riding his bike that morning on a path that had actually been chained off. It was pure chance that he came this way.
Sir, are you with her right now?
Yes.
Is she awake?
She's awake.
Is there any bleeding going on?
Her clothing has got blood on it.
Okay, and you found her and she was just laying there?
Yeah.
On that call, you can actually hear Greg comforting Payton.
Somebody's coming. Any minute. Who did that to you?
And you were biking by and she says to you what?
Could you help me, please? I've been stabbed multiple times. I quick got out my cell phone. I was shaking and dialed 911. I just stayed with the 911 operator, and I offered her water because I had a water bottle on my bike. The other thing she said was she's having trouble breathing.
And she's right here laying on the grass.
He watches as the ambulance rushes her away, the hospital less than 4 miles away from that path.
And when you looked at her, it was immediately apparent she'd been stabbed multiple times.
Yeah, to her chest and abdomen and arm and leg.
Doctors concerned she might not survive, and her mother, Stacy, has just been told Payton has been rushed to the hospital. She's also been told it was her best friend, Morgan, who did this. She calls her husband.
And I said, Payton's been stabbed. Morgan stabbed Payton. You need to come home. They need to rush Payton into surgery. So then I really lost it.
So you got in the car?
Got in the car.
Minutes later, arriving.
So I walked into the trauma room that she was in, and she was pale as a ghost. She was terrified. She was crying. She couldn't breathe.
But she saw you there.
She saw me, and she put her hand out, and I rushed over to her, and I put my arms around her, and I laid next to her, and I hugged her, and I said, "You're gonna be okay. It's gonna be fine." But I could see that she was covered. Her arms and her legs and her abdomen, they were covered in stab wounds.
They pull her away from her daughter, and she can soon hear the nurses counting.
And all I hear is, there's 5 on her arm, there's 7 on her leg, and I'm thinking, what, 7? What? And one of the nurses says, all right, I count 19, and then the second nurse said, I count 19 as well. 19? What? There's no way.
There were so many stab wounds, it took 2 nurses to count them, 19 in all. And her little girl is now being raced down the hall.
Because then they took her into surgery.
Then they took her into surgery.
Did you say anything to Payton as they were wheeling her away?
That I loved her and that she would be okay.
But there was something else Payton's mother was thinking at the same time.
Morgan didn't do this, is what's going through my head. There's no way. There's no way that's what happened. Morgan is 12.
But that's exactly what investigators believe, that Morgan and the only other girl who was invited to that sleepover, Anissa Wire, did this. But they were nowhere to be found.
They had run away and the police hadn't found them yet. And we just knew that Payton told us Morgan stabbed her and the police hadn't been able to find the girls.
And in fact, police believe those girls were walking.
Yeah.
And tonight, right here, we finally hear from the detectives, the investigators, who searched for those girls, who found them. Detective Michelle Trussoni on the stand just this week.
And once they left that wooded area, they started walking. They could hear the sirens coming.
They were going to find a mansion in the woods.
Oh, the mansion, yeah, the mansion in the woods. They were going to the Nicolay Forest because they believed that there was a mansion there that Slender Man lived in.
And this week, we heard the interrogation. Just listen to Morgan, her own voice, her own words, acknowledging who they were looking for.
We tried to find Slender Man.
Trying to find who?
Slender.
Who's Slender Man?
He's this tall, faceless man who preys on children.
A character named Slender Man, who police say they were hoping to impress, all while their 12-year-old friend Payton is in the OR fighting off death. When we come back, the doctors who discover it is worse than anyone thought. We're with the surgeon who saves her.
Less than a millimeter between living and dying. Yes.
Tonight, you'll hear much more from them in their own words. The hours of interrogation tapes just revealed. Why did they do this? What was discovered on their computers, their cell phones? And later tonight, right here, our time with the survivor, Payton, and a brand new milestone 1 week ago tonight. A young girl you will never forget.